is, and let me read what it says. When selecting your tenant, picture yourself in debt, living in a money-making vehicle, i.e. a building or what have you, or business, and how you can be stuck in a bad situation for 2 years of that debt if you don't select the right tenant. Guys, listen, I've kind of learned this the hard way. You have to take so seriously the tenant selecting and vetting process that you foresee what happens when you select the wrong tenant. And then agonize in it for a minute. Sit there in a minute. No one knows better than me what it feels like to have a tenant right underneath you be the reason why you possibly cannot pay your mortgage on time. And yes, you have savings. In a perfect world, everyone has savings and everything. But once a pandemic depletes your savings and everything, that calls for other measures, i.e., your tenant. So, anywho, um, yeah, nothing hurts and sucks worse than having a tenant right under you choose to not pay rent like you're some young punk or someone who will not act. There were plenty of times I had walked to the door and was like, walk away, walk away because of selecting the wrong tenant. I just have to put it out there. There will be moments as a landlord, as a property owner, you will select the wrong people to be around, the wrong people to be associated with your business or your building, the wrong people, and in that moment, I'm trying to kind of stop you to help you avoid having to deal with what I had to deal with. And while so many landlords depend on the judicial system to kick out the wrong tenant, I'll say. I'm trying to find the best words I could. It doesn't always happen. There could be something like a pandemic. Again, that happens. That can delay the process. You don't always want to have one method of backup. You want to have two, three, of course. But in the midst of doing this, I realized had I had the right tenant or the better tenant, this would not have happened. And I know where my mistake went to. I did the typical, oh, they're trying to throw money in my face. Oh, it looks like they're going to pay. But I did disobey one of the artifacts I saw clearly before that was written in stone and said, when they're trying to throw money at you, be careful. They're trying to distract you. And that's exactly what happened. So be mindful of that. The wrong tenant could be the make or break of your business. Okay. All right. Now that's if you're a landlord, but we're talking about property owners. Okay. So you might have a house and you are renting out that house. You're a landlord. Okay. So let me clarify that. All right. So the fourth tip is pandemics slash emergencies can happen, and don't expect the government to bail you out. I think I probably hinted around to that in a few of my tips prior to this one. But and keeping that in mind, always have funds to the side. In my case, I did have funds to the side, and it is what carried me through the pandemic. However, towards the end, things got a little shaky because my funds were depleted, just to be honest with you. And there was a little bit of not wise spending in the midst of that. Let me go ahead and throw that in there, okay? I'm human, I make mistakes, okay? This is how I'm making these tips. But anywho, um, yeah, so keep that in mind. Keep at least a 6 months emergency stash set aside. They say this everywhere, and we take for granted the fact that even if something happens to my job, 6 months. Well, my friends, as we all have experienced, there's a pandemic that happened, and it shook every single one of our lives. Whether you was just a worker bee, whether your job security fell or if you were a property owner, everybody had tenants in their building that was like, I'm not. Fortunately for me, my tenant wasn't paying before. Well, fortunate and unfortunately, she wasn't paying before the pandemic, but she used the pandemic to leverage not paying. And then I had a tenant who was paying. Then she started barely paying, and then she started making excuses. So I learned a lot, okay? I learned a lot. So do not expect the government to bail you out if there's a big pandemic, right? Or an emergency or any kind of epidemic that can happen, guys. Be mindful to save your money. I beg my friends, I beg them, I save your money, save your money. By the time they got it, it probably was the pandemic, but they started saving their money. I hope my other, anywho, don't think that 2, 3 jobs will save you. Don't think that a big paycheck can save you. You should always have things set to the side. If we are grown folk at the ages of 40 and older, I want to say 30 and older, and do not have a savings, you should be highly ashamed of yourself because you cannot spend money. I'm sorry, you don't know how to spend money if you do not have a savings. Now, if you're one of those people who, oh, you don't understand. I don't work. You don't understand. My job doesn't pay me this much. Well, you talking to someone who went from Section 8 to property owner, who lived off $195.50 every 2 freaking weeks at one point. Okay. So if you're making probably not too much, you're probably on the system, right? No excuse. With saving money. And if you make a little money, still no excuse. Okay. With that, because if you make over $195.50, you can make a way. I promise you can make a way. You can make a way. And if not, there's a way. Nowadays, there's Uber, there's DoorDash, there's a lot of ways you can make money on the side, even if you don't have experience. That's perfect. That's a segue. Volunteer. If you're a felon, they have tons of jobs that are looking for specifically felons, ex felons, rather. There's truck driving. There's so many ways you can navigate this world, right? Or get a mentor, see maybe you're missing something. But anywho, all that was to say that about tip number 4. Tip number 5. Decide if you are going to be a landlord or an investor. I got caught up in this world, right? Where there's a landlord side and then there's a investor side. So the landlord side is I'm managing the day-to-day affairs of the building itself. As a beginning landlord or a beginning property owner, absolutely do that. Get to know your property. That's what I did. Get to know your property, get to know its faults, get to know what's going on with it, get to know everything about your property, the history of it, everything, right? And then choose. Do you want to be a landlord or an investor? There's a big difference. People think that. I had people who were like, well, it could go either way. No, decide which one is going to be. Are you going to be a glorified landlord who you only care about the building, you only care about the affairs of the building, you just want to own one building, you just want to own one property, you just want to sit there and coast. You may have family members in your building that, okay, as long as they pay their rent, I'm good. As long as my tenants in my building pay my rent, I'm good. I just want a little extra money, just a little. You will be barely making it still all the time because you'll get comfortable with that money and you'll be overspending. Then you'll get extra bills to compensate for that money. And then before you know it, you're back living paycheck to paycheck. Um, I'm not coming down on landlords. You have to start as one, obviously. You have to know what it's like to manage your own property. It's yours, right? Do it yourself. But how many times do you see owners of businesses? First, they start out to get to know their business. They're more likely the manager in the start because it's their baby, right? In the beginning. How many managers do you see years and years later still their manager of their own business? Maybe they haven't grown and they're still at 10K a month, maybe? Nah, 10K a month gross net um, would still require that you have a manager over your property. It's your business, for God's sake. Decide what do you want to do. Do you want to be the business owner for life and manage your own business for life? Or do you want to eventually grow and start managing the managers of your properties on a bigger scale so that you can leverage extra time for your day to day, right? There's a big difference. So many people, including investors, are living like landlords. So many people who are getting started out owning property are living like landlords. They're not growing. They don't want to grow. They don't realize they're subconsciously they're stagnating their growth, right? Think of your why. Why did I get this building? Why did I get this property? Why did I buy this property? Not homeowners included. Homeowners are a different dynamic because homeowners can go from I bought a house to okay, now I'm gonna put a tenant in that house and get a bigger house to but that's still the segue to growth. That's still the segue to investing. Because if you keep getting houses and keep getting houses and keep getting houses, before you know you got 4 or 5 tenants. It's an investor. Do you guys even know what an investor is? Investors, in layman's terms, goal was to get more property to leverage more money, possibly more doors as a tenants, or they may do flips and fixes, or they may do buy and holds, which is they buy buildings, they put tenants in, and they make money off of it. They bought the property, now they're holding it, or they may want to do fix and flips. I'm not talking about the other aspects. I'm talking about owning property. I'm talking in this instance. I'm talking about owning property. 1 to 3. Let's start off 1 to 3 units. Let's start out there, right? For you guys, I'm talking to y'all. Y'all. What do you want to be? You want to be just a landlord or an investor? Landlords don't really care about growth. They just want to lord the land. They just want to manage the building, the tenants in their building. Now, disclaimer, if you are retiring, that could be a goal. This doesn't count you. I'm talking starting out, you just bought a property, or you're within the first 5 years of buying a property. You may be past the first 5 years of buying a property. What is your goal? What are you about this building? Because if it was anything involving money and anything in instances, you're thinking of growth. And anything that requires growth will grow, right? More tenants, more money, more properties. It's a cycle. Think of it. I thought about it myself. Someone was talking to me and it was like, you're so involved in just managing a building. You're consumed with what the tenants are doing and saying and how they're behaving. Where's your property manager? Cut me up. You're right. But until then, I hadn't thought about it. I was busy trying to learn and grow, right? Probably don't take 4 years to grow, right? This is just me generally speaking to anyone out there. For me, it was I think probably maybe 1 year. I think it was 1 year. And then, or less than a year, actually, less than a year, because I was like, I don't want to do this and my job and be a parent and vlog and write. Like it's just too much. My main thing, my present short term was I get the time to do other stuff and someone else can manage this property, i.e. my business, right? So when you get into having a property owner, that's like if you own a store, you get a manager to manage your business, right? It's the same exact thing. That property manager is concerned with the day-to-day affairs of your building. You are concerned with building more with the business side. Or what else you can do to leverage more properties and people and money. Money comes, right? You don't have to be greedy. So yeah, decide that. I had to go back to my mind and my past and my thoughts and say, what did you want to do? I did like the aspect of landlording, but I was like, what did I want building for? I saw myself owning properties or a big building. It could be one property. One property can have 100 units in it. So you know what I mean when I say that. I mean growth. Okay. So when I remember that, that's what made his advice cohesive. Because when he said, you're an investor, not a landlord, because I felt like that is and that was my goal, what I was thinking about, to eventually grow and grow and grow and grow. And you may say, well, yeah, I do want to be an investor, but right now I want to learn and I'm going to set a goal to learn this many years and then go into it. Trust me, that will change. That will change. But that's a goal. That's still fine. But really think, when you think of your properties in terms of, what do I want to grow to be as this owner? What do I want to strive to? And then you're designating whether you're a landlord or an investor. Okay. All right, guys. I hope this helps.